I like to talk a little bit about the Prime sub changes that Twitch announced recently. Basically, just for people that maybe are not aware, Twitch announced recently that they're gonna have a fixed price sub for each sub that a streamer gets via Prime, and that value will be different for each country, right? So basically, there's like a math probably that Twitch does that reaches a number, and then this number is the number for the country. And I like to ask if you could like talk a little more about the process behind those numbers, like why Brazil, in our case, with such a huge number of viewers, streamers, and probably subs, I guess, has such a low fixed value for each Prime subscriber for the streamer. Because we see countries that, well, I don't know, but they doesn't seem that huge, or like, I don't want to say important, but like in numbers, in terms of numbers for Twitch, as Brazil does, but with a much better value for each Prime sub for the streamers. So I'd like to ask why that is.
Yeah.
And also, if you would let me, recently Amazon announced that Prime will have an increasing price in Brazil. And I would like to ask if this can make a difference in how much a Twitch streamer from Brazil will receive for each Prime sub.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to get the exact numbers of what the payout was before in Brazil and what the payout was after the change. Okay. First, in general, it's a little confusing because your payout for a subscription is the revenue share, but then there's also fees that are applied, for example, mobile fees and other things, right? So
yeah,
it is not just 50% of the price, okay? Now, I want to try to get the exact numbers for Brazil, but in general, we tried to have the fixed price not all that different from what streamers had previously been getting, okay? That were at the 50-50 rev share, okay? Because we didn't want to have a big impact on streamers. And so there are a lot of factors that go into Prime in terms of like how much money we end up getting for it, right? Because we don't run Prime. And so one of the challenges in the way we were running Prime before was sometimes each time we would lose money, which meant we couldn't encourage people to use their Prime sub as much as we would like. And then we also had problems where, and it may be for you, Hayashii, for those streamers that were on 70-30, there was a meaningful change because we had based everything off of the 50-50 and tried to make sure we didn't have a big delta from that. And this also now allows us to look at the subscription price as an example and make sure we have the right subscription price. The Prime, when we lowered the subscription price in Brazil, which you know we did a year ago, which in Brazil it ended up, I think, working out well because it opened up communities to a lot more people because the subscriptions were prohibitively expensive prior to that. Probably the biggest change in Prime was when we lowered the subscription price, because when we lowered the subscription price, the Prime payout came down.
Yeah.
And that was a much bigger delta than what's happening from this change.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the exact delta from this change, but to make sure I'm not mistaken, because I don't remember each individual country. But in general, we tried to make sure that the delta wasn't greater than 5% or something like that.
Dan, let me ask you something related to that. Losing money with Prime was a Twitch strategy, right? To increase its market like space, to increase communities and to get more streamers to stream at Twitch, wasn't it? At one point, maybe?
I don't think we understood the economics of Prime when we first figured it out. We just picked something.
Okay.
Prime doesn't Prime does not grow Twitch.
Really?
The thing that grows Prime doesn't grow Twitch at all.
But
The
Twitch
thing that
helps to
grows
grow
Twitch
Prime,
are creators. Say that again.
right? Twitch helps to grow Prime.
This was true for a little while, where actually I think there was a period where a Twitch subscription was more than the Prime subscription in Brazil. Is that true? Meaning, if you wanted to buy a Prime Prime subscription, that was less than the cost of a Twitch sub,
and you will get all the benefits that he had.
It was more than double the price. The a tier 1 sub on Twitch in Brazil was like 2 times the price of being a Twitch Prime subscriber.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when we had the Prime boom, and people started getting a lot of money from Twitch.
Yes. And so that happened in Brazil. That wasn't intentional. That's because we didn't know what we were not smart when we set our subscription prices. We set our subscription prices based upon our US subscription price. And then we just translated it. Very few services do that. Most services look at an individual market. The result was it worked really well for Brazilian streamers because of Prime. Because in fact, it's as you said, I should buy Prime because I get a sub and it's cheaper than getting a sub. So I should get everything else for Prime if I'm a Twitch user. That was never the intention, and it was just in Brazil where that effect was occurring.
Okay.
And it was really because our subscription prices were much too high for the Brazilian market.
For sure. And I think that this like created I would say a culture in Brazil that the Prime is really strong. So people here, I don't know the numbers, I don't have the numbers, but I think that most streamers, probably all of the streamers, have a big part of their subs coming from Prime. So like this recently, this change that you guys announced like last month, that they were gonna have a fixed value for each Prime, looking at the big picture, have a big impact for the streamer because a lot of the subscribers come from Prime. So I think it's I don't know, it's probably our job as well, but also from Twitch to make this start to change. Like, how do we make our viewers go from Prime to tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 subs, right? Like, it's a challenge for us and Twitch as well, I think, and especially in our region because of this culture that was already like in our country from early on, you know?
Yes. We had this, as you say, culture or behavior pattern that was created in Brazil because the pricing didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And this is one reason why we, gave, 5 or 6 months from the announcement before it's taking effect, is exactly as you said, Hayashii. We need to change behavior, because if somebody in the past said, "Oh, I'll get a Prime subscription and use that as opposed to subbing," then we need to get them to say, "No, you should sub." In fact, in most of the rest of the world, the Prime subscription is not substitutional for paid subscription. They tend to be used in cases where somebody would not be giving a paid subscription.
Got it.
And the Prime is just sort of extra. Okay.
And it was being used as the main one, right?
Yes. That in fact it became this habit of a primary means in Brazil, whereas in the rest of the world, not always the rest, but in most of our developed markets, it was a trial thing. You would use your Prime sub on those creators, you just were kind of checking out. So agree completely, Hayashii, and figuring out how to get the communities to change and evolve is absolutely something. The problem is when you have what I will call is you get in this place that's not stable in terms of the economics of the business. At some point, you have to rip off the Band-Aid and get to the business that makes sense. And that's why we want to tell you in advance, right? So you can plan, but just keeping doing the same thing doesn't end up working.
Sure. But, and so with Amazon increasing the price of Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime, the Prime thing in Brazil, this does not affect at all the cut that streamers get? Okay.
No, it could over time. It doesn't do it right away. That's why we are going to adjust prices. Okay. But with them increasing the price of Prime, okay, then that might end up meaning that there's more that Twitch gets as part of it, and then that allows us to increase the price.
Okay.
Prime, lots of things change in Prime, right?
I can imagine.
Yes, and absolutely, them increasing the price in Brazil certainly might lead to us being able to increase the price after we see how that plays out.